joining us is a home lending expert from Bankrate, Linda Bell. As we were talking about this becoming a buyer's market, and especially in Phoenix above most other markets nationwide. Linda, my co-host here, Joe, he's got a roommate who is considering moving out. And he says he's got a $300,000 budget, and he can't wait to just max that out. And Joe warned him, bud, you probably want to hold back a little bit. There may be something you're not planning on. Are a lot of home buyers finding out about the some of those hidden costs right now?
Yeah, a lot of homeowners are finding out about these hidden costs, and they're not quite hidden, right? Because most people know that you have to pay property taxes, you have to pay your mortgage, you have to pay all these things when you buy a home. But we call them hidden because they're costs that people are not really budgeting for, and it's about $21,000 more than that we estimate here at Bankrate, and that accounts for things like maintenance, which is almost $9,000 a year, property taxes, utilities, and energy. That's about $4,000 each. Homeowners insurance, more than $2,000. Internet and cable, about $1,500. So a lot of homeowners, unfortunately, are not properly budgeting for this when they buy a home.
So you're talking about $21,000 a year, not $21,000 in things like
Yes.
closing costs. You're talking about an extra 21 grand. Wow. So
Yes, 21,000 a year. Yeah.
so that is almost $2,000 onto what you might be thinking of as a basic payment, which is simply your mortgage and interest rate and whatever else, right? When you're shopping for that home.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Homeowners kind of take into account the mortgage payment and say, oh, I can buy a $300,000 home. I can afford the $2,000 a month mortgage payment. But then you have to take in all these other extra costs because we've written a lot this on Bankrate about people being house poor, right? You buy a house and you kind of go right to your limit and you think, I'm going to afford that monthly mortgage payment because most people take out a fixed mortgage and then so that's fixed for 30 years if you stay in your home for that long. But all these other costs are just keep rising, and homeowners really need to figure that out.
Linda Bell from Bankrate, she's a home lending expert, joins us right now. And Linda, obviously, if I move, I'm gonna want to buy some new stuff, furnishings. I see that could be as much as about $16,000. Moving fees can obviously get pricey. The further you're moving, the more you're going to spend. Could be 5-6 grand. What are some of the costs that are the biggest as we look year to year? Is it maintenance? Is it repairs? Is that the biggies?
Oh, yes, that definitely is the biggie. And it has a lot to do with inflation, right? The inflation and the tariffs and things like that as the cost of goods and services just keep on increasing. And the thing is that there are a lot of aging homes here in the market, right? Homes that are more than 40 years old. So with that comes extra maintenance, and you may have to replace your roof or maybe a new HVAC or maybe other things that you need with that house. So that's a big portion of that, about $9,000.
Linda Bell, Bankrate home lending expert. Linda, is there kind of a secret formula? Whenever I think of buying a house, I think of my high school econ teacher told me about the rule of 29. Spend 29% of your gross income on your home. But maybe it should be a little bit less than that if I have all of these other costs I'm not factoring in. Is there a simple way to remember this? As I'm shopping and I'm going on, Redfin or Zillow or wherever?
Yeah, you definitely should need to plan for savings, right? When you buy a home, as I mentioned, don't just take into account that monthly mortgage payment. So you typically should be saving about 1 to 4% of the value of your home in an emergency fund. And for that emergency fund, I recommend not a regular bank account that you'd find at the local bank. Definitely a high yield savings account. That way you're making more, your money's making more for you, and you can get some extra savings that you can put forth and automate your savings. That's a great tip. Don't just say, well, maybe I'll put, $20 here, $20 there. If you make it automatic, you're not really thinking about it. It's automatically going into your savings account. And then that way you can kind of shore up some money in case the unexpected happens.
Talking with Linda Bell from Bankrate, home lending expert. So, Linda, what are some of the others that you haven't hit on yet in terms of if I'm getting ready to buy that house, the mortgage, the total price of the house, and the down payment? Those are the obvious ones. We know the repairs, the things like that. What are some of the others that you feel like people don't think about that? You said we want to avoid being house poor.
Yeah, definitely. Homeowners insurance is a big one, especially depending on where you live. A lot of people are paying more for homeowners insurance, especially areas in the country that have extreme weather events, right? So we're talking about the the middle part of the country, especially that area, is it experiencing these high costs as it relates to homeowners insurance. And then also property taxes. Unfortunately, I live in New Jersey. My state is the biggest offender when it comes to high property taxes. Also, states like Hawaii and California. So you need to kind of budget for that because even with property taxes, you can appeal if you get a high assessment for your property tax. But a lot of people are kind of stuck with these high rates, and you can't avoid them. You can't say, "Well, I don't want to pay my property taxes." If you say that, then your home's going to be foreclosed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have internet and cable, but
Okay. No, I think that's a
you have to
great
pay those
point.
property taxes.
You made a really great point earlier when you said that so many of these other costs are not locked in. Our mortgage may be fixed for 30 years, but property taxes are going up. The cost of the insurance is going to go up. Everything else is going up. Are there any tips for saving? I mean, do I have to go without internet and cable, or can I shop around for? Obviously, I can't shop around for property
Yes.
taxes, right?
Oh, you can't shop around for property taxes, but
That'd
you
be
can
nice.
appeal.
Okay.
You can appeal. If you say if you should get a notice in the mail, typically depending on where you live across the country, you can get a notice in the mail that says, okay, this is the value of your property. So let's say it says your value is $500,000, and you haven't done any upgrades. Your home is kind of not in the best condition.
Yeah.
You can actually appeal. So you just have to make sure that you don't miss the appeal window, which can be short, about 20 to 60 days. So make sure you don't miss that in terms of appealing the property taxes. But you can shop around in terms of internet and cable. You can shop around in terms of utilities, depending on where you live. Some places, because of regulations, they may have more than one utility provider, but
Okay.
it's always the best thing to shop around whenever you can.
Hey, we know it's a buyer's market right now. The hidden costs of buying a home. Thank you so much, Linda Bell, the Bankrate home lending expert. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.